Time for another Elsie's Little Pickles, the pickle pod for the people, with my brother in brine, Kiefer. And with
Elsie's Little Pickles is filmed before an undead studio audience.
Although some of them may be sleeping. So,
this is true.
I'm waiting with bated breath. I don't know what that
with bated breath.
I don't know what that means. Maybe it means I have fish breath. But I
am with masturbated breath.
I am waiting with masturbated breath for the news.
The news.
Stop! Don't tease me.
It's Halloween, and we need some truly. Well, the news is always scary.
Yes, it is. It's never good news.
Tonight, Timmy, I'm going to read you the Wall Street Journal.
Ah! Oh, shit.
Rudy Giuliani must give control of luxury items and his Manhattan apartment to Georgia election workers that he defamed, the judge has ruled. That is not an audio drop. That is actually real audio of Giuliani.
Yeah. Oops, wrong fucking audio clip. This is what you get for what you're paying for. No, there's no quality. There's no quality of production here.
This isn't a low budget podcast. This is a no budget podcast. Yeah.
That's right. So what I find interesting is that Giuliani is now in a position where the rubber has met the road. He can complain. He can file as many appeals as he wants. It's done. He's done.
Yes.
And
he has destroyed his reputation. Yeah.
So
that's what you get.
So look, let's take a minute and think about this with Giuliani. And I would say that this is the same thing that we need to contemplate, whether you're talking Bannon, whether you're any number of people that are associated with Trump prior or up to 2020, and how they were trying to overturn the election, how they were trying to call into question something like Giuliani did, as simple as these poor two poll workers, and defame them. And the reason why I use that word defame is because I think we need to get into the idea of free speech coming up here. But what I want to really focus on this moment is the idea that fuck you, Rudy.
Well, it seems to me that really people like Giuliani, like, low budget Batman's villain Roger Stone, people like that, Steve Bannon is one of these people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't throw them in prison. Don't throw them in jail. You know what you do? You make them work the fry station at McDonald's.
Oh, just like Trump?
About 6 months. But with real customers, not hand-chosen, selected.
So we did touch on this briefly in the last episode, but I think it is important to revisit this one with Trump. And the reason is because to me it is desperation. It reeks of desperation.
Did you happen to peruse McDonald's response?
No, I did not.
The negative criticism?
No, I did not.
Because people were calling to boycott McDonald's.
And obviously this was a franchisee. So it was a franchisee.
They're all franchisees.
Yeah. So it's not McDonald's Corporation that's behind this. It's the franchisee.
As McDonald's said, they are not blue. They are not red. They are golden. They have never endorsed a candidate because we're all the same. And I respect that.
I do respect that.
I
but
feel
that
bad
is
that they had to come out and make a statement. But in this day and age.
So I've actually worked with a lot of different people that have either some form of a franchise or they have multiple franchises. And there's always a principal, right? So that's the owner is considered the principal. And in that, typically, there are rules of engagement. And typically, which I'm a little bit surprised that all this time has gone by where the McDonald's franchise agreement has not been updated to the point where it would say, as a franchisee, you're not allowed to represent utilizing your location. You're not, it's not acceptable, at least, that you endorse a candidate. Now, this particular franchisee did do something smart. He did post it ahead of time. He did say that this is not, we're not red or blue kind of thing in his statement or in the company statement. And that no matter who the presidential candidate would have been, whether Trump or Kamala, they would have accommodated either one of them. So I think that they did right out of the gate take kind of a diplomatic and a very, very on the fence kind of endorsement. Mm-hmm. But you did close your restaurant down for a day in order to accommodate someone who is running for president that, had it not been for the Supreme Court ignoring, what was it, the 14th or the 4th Amendment? I forget what it was, that anyone who has ever participated in any type of insurrection and held office should never, ever be on a political ticket again. I think that's the 14th. I do think that these companies that are endorsing or throwing any type of support or allowing him to show up, it doesn't look good for you, man. I just don't think it looks good for you. And if that's where you're at, maybe you should just not support either candidate. You know what I mean? Like, you should be looking out for your business and tiptoe the fuck away from the circumstance. That's my opinion, though. You know what I mean? But then you have people like Giuliani and Bannon and, the list goes on and on. There's 14 defendants in the RICO case in Georgia or whatever it is. Trump is a tornado of shit. And if you get caught up in that and get close to it, you're going to get sucked up in the tornado of shit. And the weird thing is the tornado, which is Trump, never gets hurt. But I'll be damned if all the people that get sucked up in that tornado don't find themselves fucked in one way or the other. I do feel bad for Rudy Giuliani for being stupid enough to have played the game the way he did. However, he showed the country who he was. And the same is with Bannon. You've shown the country who you are. Bannon, like his daughter was trying to say that they were holding him longer than they were supposed to. And that's not true at all. He's not supposed to get out till I think the 29th. And they're like, no. Like, this is the thing is like, facts don't matter anymore. Facts don't matter. The fact was he was scheduled to get out, like I said, I believe on the 29th. He had tried and appealed to get out sooner and was rejected. But that doesn't mean that he's not getting out on time. That doesn't mean that there's anyone pulling any strings aside from the judicial system saying, look, you committed this crime. You were sentenced to these many days. You will serve all of those days. That's it. End of story. Same with Giuliani. You were found guilty. This was a judgment. And this is the way it's going to go. Like, the party who was always beating their chest about being all about the rule of law, when it applies to them, they suddenly aren't. So that's my take on it is you know what? I'm sorry that you fell victim to Don Juan, but just because you got fucked, Mussolini. Just because you got fucked because you made that decision doesn't mean that the decision to fuck you was wrong.
I always refer to him as Trimple Thin Skin.
Trimple Thin Skin.
That's my shtick.
I love it. Trimple Thin Skin. He's been falling asleep a lot lately too, and we discussed this even on the last one. But he has been nodding off,
watching his own rallies.
God, you would think that he would get tired of his own bullshit, wouldn't you?
He's too much of a narcissist.
God,
he loves it,
dude.
He probably jerks off to his own recordings,
dude. I'm totally into me. I am a super narcissist, and I jerk off to pictures of myself, and I'm still bored with it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, alrighty then.
I think that he's gotten to a point where, I don't know. I think he realizes. I think he realizes.
A lefty or a righty?
Yeah, I'm not sharing that with you. Fuck off. I'm righty. I'm right-handed. I'm right-handed.
I use neither. I use my feet.
Very good. Just like the little monkey you are.
And in other news, Jelly Roll says he's quitting Twix.
Good.
Calling it the most toxic and negative app to ever exist.
He's absolutely right. He's absolutely right. I watched, this is on topic, but a little bit off. I watched the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductions. Okay. I don't know if you saw that or not. Did you?
No.
Okay.
I generally ignore them now because they have not inducted Iron Maiden.
No, I get you. I get you for that. They did induct Ozzy. So there were two reasons I watched. One, I wanted to see Ozzy get inducted. And two, one of my favorite artists is Dave Matthews, and he got inducted. Or Dave Matthews Band got inducted. So I wanted to stay up and watch that. So I'm watching it mainly because I want to see Dave Matthews, but I'm also fascinated with how Ozzy's going to do all this, because I know he's got some health problems lately, and you know,
I'm so sorry. I find Dave Matthews boring.
You know what? Some people do. I don't. I just enjoy it. I don't know why. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I accidentally fell into the music, and that's where I'm at. Anyway, I'm not going to defend it because there's so many people out there. It's kind of like it's kind of like Grateful Dead. In the sense of,
yeah, I'm not a big Dead person.
I absolutely I have no interest in the Grateful Dead whatsoever, which is why it's so weird that I would have any interest in.
A great name for a band, like, oh, that's cool. They must be kind of like that Alice Cooper into the spooky and, you know, kind of horror thing. No,
not at all.
No. I was very much disappointed.
So I'm not a jam band guy. And I knew...
But in that vein, I want to announce this week's 2 songs that everybody should listen to at Halloween.
Okay.
And I know you're not a big Halloween music person.
Nah.
And I am a complete
junkie.
Halloween music nerd.
Right.
And my 2 picks this week are going to be The Mummy's Bracelet from Lee Ross from 1958.
Mm-hmm.
Great song. It's fun. And I'm going to throw in there When You're Evil by Voltaire.
Okay.
Which is, yeah, if you have not heard that, I'm sure you haven't heard it.
No, I haven't.
It is such a fun song. It really is.
All right. What's your third?
A third song, if you're going to twist my arm and make me give a third this week, I'm going to say Voodoo by Screamin' Jay Hawkins.
Okay. That one I think I have heard. I'd have to listen to it again. You don't
Screamin' Jay Hawkins is an underrated artist. Some people did quite tickle their fancy, but
see, though, that's the thing about music is I think that's what makes it amazing. Like, there is literally no reason for me to be a Dave Matthews Band fan based on all of my other musical interests, right? I mean, you know my musical interests, and you know that none of them, absolutely none of them, even come close to fitting into that kind of genre that he's cut out for himself and his band. Yet there is something that hits you. And I think that's the thing that's fucking amazing about music is I went into it going, I know he's a jam band, I'm not interested. And then I started hearing music on the radio that I didn't know was his, but it caught me. And then when I found out it was his, well, hold on. When I found out it was his, I got mad. I didn't want to like him. I didn't want to like that music. I didn't. But yet, the more I heard, the more I enjoyed it. So what do you do in that circumstance?
That reminds me of? You know, I've had the same issue with something completely different.
Okay.
I feel exactly that way about Crocs. I have hated Croc shoes because they look stupid.
Right, they do. They look fucking retarded.
Everybody's got them on. And I'm just like, I don't get it. And now I own 3 pairs.
So,
and I love them.
All right. So
different styles.
Yeah. But see, that's
and
the thing.
They're great. They're waterproof. You go into water, they're going to float if you lose them. And on top of it, they're great. Got to take the dog out really quick. Don't want to slap on my big boots. I'll
slide Crocs on.
Go outside really quick.
You'll never get me so here's the difference. I accidentally became a Dave Matthews Band fan.
Mm-hmm.
You chose to put Crocs on. You didn't accidentally step into a fucking pair of Crocs.
No, it was I got to take dogs out really quick, and I didn't have socks on. Didn't want to stick my feet into my boots without socks. And the old lady's Crocs were sitting right there. They're a little small for me because I have clown feet. But I was like,
yeah, you do.
And I walked
size
outside,
27 is clown feet, definitely. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, that was when I was 13.
I
am now at size 52.
Takes a whole bag of plastic.
I slipped them on, went outside and was like, these things even massage your feet when you walk. I feel so dirty wearing them. And now
you feel dirty wearing them.
I've got 3 pairs.
Well, you know what? See, that's why I'm not going to let you judge me.
And I put them on just to, they're kind of like house slippers. You don't want to wear your boots or anything inside. So throw on some Crocs.
Yeah. Yeah. And what's next? The
and you got to do the Crocs with socks.
Are you going to do the Tony Soprano robe, no shirt and, and boxers next while you're just standing in Crocs? grabbing your mail.
I'm already there. Quite honestly, I was doing the robe thing before the Crocs.
Yeah. You know what? That's something that people don't talk about enough. A good robe.
I'll tell you, you just see a shirt and suspenders, but the suspenders are hooked to my underwear.
No one talks about how great robes are. That was one thing I got turned on to in my travels. Every now and again, I would be at a very nice hotel that had robes waiting for you, right? Like it was just, that's a courtesy. We give you a robe. And I always, as I was younger, I was like, that's okay. No, I'm good. And then one day I was just a little bit chilly and I got out of a shower and I'm getting ready and I'm looking over at that robe. I'm like, motherfucker. So I throw the robe on. I'm like, oh, this is the best.
I get it.
And I'll tell you what, it made me a believer. I think robes are way, way underrated.
Yeah.
Not only underrated, what we should do? We should do for people who are regular listeners and potential fans. You guys know that we have talked in the past about trying to put out actual pickles based on our mom, Elsie, based on her recipe. I think we might have found a company that we might be able to work with. We're going to be talking with them hopefully shortly. But the other aspect of
cucumber size, little pickle cucumber size vibrators. I'm a stickler about that one.
I know you are, and that's going to happen. But I just have to find the fucking company that will produce them, and then we have to overcome
what that does what?
Yeah. Well, here's the problem with that. Is it's not getting a company that can produce a little gherkin vibrator, all right, in multiple sizes. That's not the problem. The problem is I'm struggling to put our mother's name on said vibrators. I mean, I think that's taking it perhaps a step or maybe just a toe.
Oh, she would find that.
Oh, she'd find it fine. She would find it fucking hysterical. She would absolutely be cackling. She'd be laughing so hard. But that's not the point. The point is that we're the ones doing it, not her. It's one thing to put out her pickles. It's another thing to put out a vibrator.
All you have to do is put the pickle logo out of us on it going,
yeah, thumbs up, motherfucker.
Thumbs up.
So that is, though, one of the things maybe we should look into is seeing if we can find a company that will produce high quality robes for our listeners that have just the
They should come in plain white or pickle green.
Ooh, I think pickle green, don't you? I think
You gotta have both. You gotta have both.
Yeah.
Appeal to two types of people.
Well, in that,
people who just want the pure Snow White.
Well, in that vein,
the pickle.
We should have a white, black, and green. Now the question is, do you just do the little ELP logo on the breast, or do you do it a full back one? Like
no, just the breast. You got to keep it classy.
Keep it classy. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
But we should actually have large back patches done for motorcyclists so that they can like it's club patch, so they can put it on their vest, on their cut. They can put the ELP. That'd be fucking hilarious to see a bunch of bikers.
And instead of the location of the club, it just says in the brine.
In the brine, yeah. There we go. There we go. All right, back to the news. Anything else?
Is really all that actually, I do have a third. I do have a third story. I don't have the actual article up because I got angry. But apparently, North Korea is sending Russia troops.
Really?
Yes.
Well, that'll be easy cannon fodder. They're only like 5'2". North Korea.
Yeah, but, when you get small like that, is that racist saying that?
That they're small? No, yeah. They're underfed.
No, that's true.
It's not racist to say that they're malnourished.
If they're sending troops over to Russia to help in Ukraine, what's the over-under that they're going to try to escape because they're finally free?
Oh, I think they're definitely going to try to escape. I think that you're going to have a ton of North Korean soldiers go AWOL. I think that, and that's if they make it over there. Okay, like
they're already there apparently.
Well, yeah, maybe, sure, but these are some of the best fed by the state because they're military and they're still malnourished. These are not.
I saw a picture
of
not the troops.
Strong and they're not big.
I saw a picture and I couldn't help but notice they all look like they were 40 years old.
Again,
they looked older.
Yeah, I don't doubt that. Though. I don't doubt that they looked it. They were probably in their 20s. It's just that shit is that hard there. So like I could see them being in between 20 and 30 years old and looking like they're in between 40 and 50 years old. These are very small people. They are very malnourished. They don't have any real ability to build muscle because of the fact of their lack of nutrition. The vast majority of them are kind of living meal to meal. So I don't think that is, I don't know what the threat level is.
Well, it's like old-timey photos. I saw one the other day of no one knew if it was bride and groom or bride and father because there was no caption. And so people were speculating. But the man looked like he was Colonel Potter from MASH with the big beard.
Right.
And she was late teens, early 20s. And, I captioned on, in the comments that clearly he just graduated high school. Because people, particularly men, looked really old in photos. And
right.
Neither one looked happy, which goes back to when photographs became a thing,
you had to sit.
I had to sit for a long time. And it wasn't customary to smile.
No.
Something that I think, what's his nuts from Family Guy? Seth
MacFarlane. Yeah.
I think he got it right in that movie, A Million Ways to Die in the West. You smiled in a photograph. People thought you were nuts.
Right. And that's because it would take so long for the negative to imprint. So you couldn't get a quality photo if you didn't have an exposure time that was like, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes or whatever. It was a fair amount of time. Yes. And in order for the photograph to come through and to actually look good, whatever position you took, you had to sit there for that extended period of time and essentially not moving, not blinking, not anything. But they
You ever
did.
see old
They did
movies
look older.
like that? Like amateur movies from like the turn of the century, and just like, wonder how they died.
Well, based
Maybe it's just me.
on Buster Keaton, I would say that it was probably a fucking accident doing a stunt.
Were they maybe, going out to the barn to feed the animals and
I don't
got kicked in the nuts and it ruptured something?
I don't know, man. I think that you see a large
Popped something, French kissing the horse.
You see a large amount of the picture. Well, I mean, look, you could even go like we did when we were going through all of the stuff at the house after Mom passed, and we did a brief episode on this where it was basically a reverse archaeology. You were starting with the pictures that were on top. And the pictures that were on top were the most recent. You know what I mean? So, but as you got down to the middle and the bottom, you were watching your parents and yourself, in many cases, reverse in age. And the thing that was interesting to me was how much older grandparents looked. You know what I mean? Like Grandpa and Grandpa Brewer, Grandpa, and like they looked far older than they were in comparison
the
to
picture
somebody.
of Grandpa, he died when he was what, 42?
That was on Mom's side. He died at 44.
44. That wasn't far off.
But he looked like he was 73 by today's standards. And even Grandma on Mom's side, she was 56, and had she not dyed her hair, even with dyeing her hair, she looked at 56 like she was 76. Now, granted, I don't know at what point some of those pictures were taken, because at one point she had breast cancer and was going through treatment for it, and that obviously takes its toll. But even like the ones that I saw of Grandma when she was in her 20s and 30s, you were like, fuck, you look like you're 50. Mm-hmm. By today's standards. Even when we look at contemporaries, right? You can see somebody who's 75, 85 years old, and you go, yeah, they're past 65. We know that, but how much? You know what I mean? Like when you see somebody that's 80, you don't necessarily know if they're 65, 75, or 80. And I think that has to do a lot with, obviously, the way we take care of ourselves, the nutrition levels, the fact that, we're not working physically as hard as
preservatives in our food.
In our food. I'm look, with all of the diet pop that I've drank, all the diet soda I've drank, there's a good chance that my body will not age past what you see currently. I think that I will be preserved.
Yeah, I will say we're middle-aged. Mm-hmm. Maybe not mentally, but
no,
we both have
12
full heads
mentally.
of hair.
Yeah. And as you see, there's very little gray on me, except for my beard. Same with you.
Beard.
So I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's better living, if that's better healthcare, if that's just genetics, I don't know what it is. But it is definitively different to look at, somebody who's in their 80s nowadays versus somebody who was in their... And you can always tell, too, kind of like the person who's in their 80s, that I do believe that it is financially tied. Because you'll see somebody that has financial means, and they will not look as old as they are. And you will see somebody that maybe is, 40, but living in a trailer park, and they look worse than somebody that's 80 but has means. So I do think that money has something to do with that. How much that has something to do with it, I don't know, but I would think that it has a fair amount.
I hear you.
But what I wanted to get to in this episode, because here we are, we're already halfway in, and we haven't even touched upon the main topic. So let's get to the main topic. And
I was about to derail it again.
Oh, go ahead. Knock your socks off.
Well, it occurred to me while listening to the last show that I never finished my last cemetery story. What happened?
You're right. You didn't. And actually, that was 2 shows ago. Two shows ago, and I forgot to call you to the carpet on it on the last one. So go ahead with that story because it is a great story.
So we had to drive to a location, and I had mentioned that there was one year, because we did this several years.
Well,
let's 4 years.
Let's go back on this. This is one of your scariest, real.
I don't know about scariest, but interesting.
Most interesting places that you visited that was supposedly haunted.
It's an event that happens, well, I'll say November 22nd to the 23rd every year. I won't go into the history because that'll take a while. But apparently a figure will walk across the woods and meet up with her father in a different cemetery because they're buried separately, murdered the same night. And
murdered the same night, literally the same night, same year, same everything,
in the same house.
So
it was
how did they
murder?
How did they end up in separate cemeteries? Do you know?
That offhand, I don't remember.
Okay,
but we would drive there, and the first year we weren't there too long. It was crazy cold, and I do believe the first year police were there removing people. The second year, we had the most interesting part happen. The officer let us stay, basically, only because a local who lived down the street from this was standing around talking to us and knew the officer.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got to stay. And I'll say really quickly, on the third year, we were supposed to meet a bunch of people there. That didn't happen because there were several police officers there.
Mm-hmm.
And I drove 3 hours to get there. And I let the officer know, we came from pretty far away. Would it be all right to stretch our legs really quick? And he was, yeah, that's cool. I think he wanted the company.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was standing there kind of stretching, naturally I started asking questions. And it came out that he did not want to be there. They draw straws for whoever has to sit there all night.
Oh, shit.
And he motioned to his police vehicle that it was pointing away from the cemetery.
So you can get the fuck out of Dodge.
Nobody wants to keep their eyes on the cemetery. And so that tells you something. But the previous year, let me get to that story. There were 3 of us there, not counting the local. And he was very nice. Was telling us all about, what typically happens, what time. He was going to stick around to the magic time, as he called it. And it's, woods behind us, little tiny 1 schoolroom church and school. I do believe that's what it was used for at the time. It's now a historical building. And the cemetery attached, which was fenced in. And you're not allowed into the cemetery at night. So we honored that rule. But a girl I was seeing at the time and I were on the side of the cemetery taking pictures, just keeping an eye on things. My friend Kirk was over by the school talking with the local, and everything became crazy still. It was cold, it was windy, and suddenly it was just cold. No wind, no nothing, silent. And we're just kind of like, okay, that's different. Everything just stopped. And as we're standing there, I'm like, I need to take a couple of pictures. And there's a fence in front of me that is basically an access fence for like a vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a larger gated fence. And the hatch for that fence and the fence itself blew open like someone kicked it.
Oh, shit.
And nobody was touching it.
That'll make you poop.
A very boom, and it flew open. I looked at her, she looked at me, and snap, 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 snap. Getting a ton of pictures. And we didn't see anything other than that. But everything was still for another 10 minutes. And then the wind picked right back up. Everything went back to normal.
But there was definitely a sense of, oh, fuck, something is different.
Yes.
Like this is
Very much so.
This is
Like,
an abrupt.
no bugs making. I mean, it was cold, so you're not really going to get many bugs. But the wind stopped the way it was because it was very windy, like 30-mile-an-hour winds, and then suddenly nothing. It was just different.
So when we've talked about these types of things before, you know that I'm when it comes to ghosts, I'm not a believer. I'm not.
Well, the question becomes
Potentially a believer.
If I asked you to go someplace, would you be willing to go?
Yeah, I don't give a shit.
Okay. That would be fun.
Yeah, I'm not somebody that
we had one of the places I used to go to train people, a cemetery. We were there obviously 2:00 in the morning. Let me phrase for people who don't know, typically it's done at nighttime because it is just quiet out. You don't have road noise as much.
Right.
But we are standing there and I'm recording audio. So I don't get to hear this in real time. In the recording afterwards, we had to chuckle because there was a woman's voice saying trouble was coming and we might want to leave.
Really?
Just a general warning. And 3-4 minutes after that voice, police rolled up.
Oh, shit.
And in the recording, you can hear this. And the police show up. We give them a business card. Like, we're not here to clown around. We're recording. And as per usual in situations like that, the police, in this case, took the card, looked at it, looked at us and was like, this place is haunted. As they're backing up slowly to their car.
Yeah, suddenly their gun and their pepper spray and their fucking they're not thinking like, oh, this is none of this shit's gonna work.
And it's only funny because this particular cemetery, it's kind of hidden. It's behind a business. It's very old, old in Michigan standards, goes back to the 1800s. But there's a creek that runs through it. And unfortunately, there are some markers that people have thrown down the hill to the creek. We actually tried to fix some of the stuff because we'd go back during the day, tried to help take care of this place. But it's kind of hidden, forgotten.
I've got one that I don't know how old it is, but it's got to go back to at least, I would think, somewhere in the 1800s. Not too far from me, like within 3-4 miles. That you might want to check that one out. Right? And if you
might have been there.
Yeah, if you want to go there, I mean, we can absolutely.
There's actually a cemetery right next to Romeo High School.
Oh yeah,
yeah, been there. I've also had the privilege of visiting some very famous graves.
All right,
Boston.
Hold on, before you get to brag, I've got only one. That's it.
Okay,
I've got one. I went and saw James Dean's grave.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
It was pretty cool actually. And it was interesting because there were still all these years later, that was still a place where like his tombstone, his grave marker was covered with lipstick kisses. People were still leaving stuff at the grave. It was actually a very somewhat busy gravesite. Yeah, so that was it wasn't as big of a deal. I did it with a booker. All right. So the lady that booked this particular club was a huge James Dean fan. And this was in Indiana, and that's where he's buried. And so she was like, I'm a huge James Dean fan. I want to go see his grave, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, you know what? I like James Dean. Let's go. And she's like, you're kidding. Right. Because no other comic would. She was a little bit nuts, if I'm being perfectly honest. And I don't even know if she's still alive. I think she passed away. But she was a little bit on the nutty side. Like she was the chick that had pet frogs, if that makes sense to you.
Pet frogs, interesting.
Yeah, like exotic. She had exotic pet frogs. So we went to the museum, and then we went and we saw the grave, and that was my big one. And that's really the only one I think I've ever gone to.
Okay.
I mean, even when I was in California, I had no interest in going to like the Hollywood Cemetery and seeing Marilyn's.
Be so in there.
I just did. Yeah, I just didn't have, I didn't have any interest in it mainly because of the idea. Like I said, I'm just not somebody that buys into the ghosts, and I'm not saying that it can't be. Okay, especially the Halloween season. I want to believe. I do. I want to believe in it. I just don't have any experiences that I can justifiably say make me a believer. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So I'm not pissing on what you believe in or anyone who believes in ghosts. I'm not shutting it down. I'm not criticizing or ridiculing it by any stretch of imagination.
The only people that I piss on about that are the people who are like, I don't believe in. All right, why don't you come with me sometime? No.
Yeah, like
I don't want to.
Yeah, no. See, like I would totally do it.
I get a little like whatever, dude. So
yeah, if you're not willing, not willing to, it's the same thing with UFOs. Okay, I believe in the possibility of UFOs far more than I believe in the possibility of ghosts, and many people would say just the opposite. They believe more in the possibility of ghosts in the afterlife and whatever, more than they believe in the possibility of aliens existing. All right. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying that they're wrong and I'm right or vice versa. I'm saying that my experiences are I've seen shit and experienced things that lead me to believe that phenomenon is most likely true, or at least highly possible, right? When you get into the ghost argument, though, I don't have an experience that I can say leads me. So aside from wanting to believe, mm-hmm. I have no reason to believe, if that makes sense to you.
So some of the interesting graves I've been to are like, John Hancock.
Oh, that'd been
Paul
cool.
Revere.
Yeah.
Historical people who made this country.
Did you get to see Benjamin Franklin?
Franklin is buried in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I didn't know if
I haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
But got to see the Abbott brothers from Pantera because I live in Texas. Got to see theirs. Stevie Ray Vaughan's got to go to.
Oh, where's his?
The one
Austin?
In Texas.
It's also, but is it Austin?
Yes.
Okay.
I do believe so. If I remember right.
Man, what a great guitarist.
But one of the more interesting that I got to see firsthand is Jonathan Chapman.
Wow.
I do you know who I'm talking about?
Yes.
That's his real name. Johnny Appleseed.
That's incredible. I didn't even know. I didn't know that they had a gravesite for him.
Yeah. And you'd be shocked where it's at.
Where?
It's in Fort Wayne, Indiana.
Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah. Fort Wayne, Indiana. It's a park that they made around.
But this is so fucking stupid because that's, like I said, Indiana, and I forget where in Indiana it was at this time because this is going 25 years ago that I visited James Dean. Okay. But I was working in Fort Wayne.
Really?
Yeah. That's what's crazy about it is had I known that, I would have made it like, okay, well, first we're going to go see Johnny Appleseed's fucking grave and then we'll go see James Dean's grave. I do find the idea of visiting famous graves interesting. You know what I mean? I don't, but for no other reason than the nostalgic aspect of it. And kind of like, especially if it was somebody that like Johnny Appleseed or like, John Hancock that were major contributing figures to history. Aside from that though, like, would I do it? No, I don't think I would. But the fact that they were actually, major historical figures, and even like James Dean, I didn't really care too much about it, like the grave part of it. Mm-hmm. I was more interested in the idea of the museum. But it turned out I actually found myself interested in the gravesite.
It's just interesting to me because you read about these people in school every year.
It makes them real.
To sit there and go like, they're right there.
Yeah, but that's the thing is like I was at that time, I was into, a lot of old movies at that time, right?
Mhm.
So I was on the road heavily, and at that time AMC was having a lot of old movies that they were running.
Mhm.
And some black and white, most of them black and white, and to a degree it was a little bit nostalgic for me because, again, that was something that me and Mom did. You know what I mean? So remember I told you about Bill Kennedy at the movies, which I'm still surprised you don't know who the fuck Bill Kennedy was. Okay. But in all fairness, I'm going to have to go back and look to see when he stopped broadcasting and when Bill Kennedy, when it went away, when that show went away, because I want to say that show probably went away when you were about 3 or 4 years old. Now, the more that I think about it.
Yeah.
But prior to me going to school, Mom was never into soap operas, right?
Yeah.
Thankfully, she was never into soap operas. But what we would do, and this is prior to me going to school, and then it would also incur in summer, but it would also be like if I had a sick day or something like that, right? Which was a lot. We would watch at lunchtime. It was either Andy Griffith or I Love Lucy reruns would come on, right? So we would watch those. But directly after that was Bill Kennedy at the movies. And Bill Kennedy would come out, and he was a local guy, Detroit broadcaster. And this was just for the Detroit market. But he would play these old movies, and he would give you insight into how they were cast or who the people were or how the production went. He'd give you all the little behind the scenes type things and give you the setup, right? Or he would tell you as he was introducing the movie, like, this movie, was produced by MGM and blah, blah, blah. It was during the studio times and blah, 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 blah. And so was under contract and didn't want to do this. And so there was
I swear, I thought you were going to say you watched HR Puffin stuff.
Well, I did, actually.
Oh, you did?
Oh, yeah.
What a weird show.
Dude, that fucked me up.
What kind of drugs were they taking?
Good ones.
That show was
really
terrifying.
Good ones. It absolutely was terrifying. And I'll tell you the only other one, and I can't think of the name of it, but there were 2 other shows that used to freak me out as a kid, and I didn't want to watch them. And one of them had a middle-aged man with glasses, dark hair, and I think the puppet's name was Phineas. And I can't remember what that was.
Are you talking about Mr. Dressup?
No, it might have been Mr. Dressup.
Phineas the puppet.
It might have been Mr. Dressup.
Are you sure about the name?
Not positive. But there was another show that was similar to it, and it was as fucking creepy as that one.
Phineas T. Bluster?
I don't know. I would always change the channel. I would do everything I could not to watch it if I could. Like H&R Puffin stuff. Oh, and the other one was, I think it was called Land of the Lost.
Land of the Lost.
They had this, which I believe was also produced by the people behind H&R Puffin stuff.
Well, the Phineas T. Bluster says was a puppet, an old man with glasses. Part of the Howdy Doody and Buffalo Bob.
No, this one was a redheaded puppet. It was a redheaded kid puppet, right? And
Are you talking about Finnegan?
Finnegan, that's it. That little motherfucker was creepy. Fuck him. Fuck him and his puppet ass. Fuck him and his little fucking redheaded puppet asshole.
You know who was terrifying as a puppet? Oh, God. I'm going to have to look for the name. Well, one of them, because there's 2 of them that really irked me, but one of them was Madam.
Oh, yeah, Madam was creepy. But the thing was with Madam never bothered me so much because you always saw the guy. And he wasn't a great ventriloquist, so you always knew what was going on. I can't think of his name, but like Madam was a creepy looking puppet, but it didn't creep me out. Lamb Chop was another puppet that you either loved or hated. Now, I didn't mind Lamb Chop.
Missy Lane from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood and Fantasyland.
Mm-hmm.
Missy Lane was a puppet that I found crazy creepy.
Yeah, I didn't like any of the puppets from Mr. Rogers, to be honest with you. I didn't care who. Is Missy Lane the one?
Charlie's coming to kill me.
Was Missy Lane the one that was the older looking one, but had she almost looked like Madam. She looked like Madam, but had like blonde hair, right? It was fucking creepy.
Like puppet that's rotting version of Julie Andrews.
Yes.
Haircut.
Oh my God. There was a period there. You know what I mean? Like keeping, and again, we're keeping with the Hollywood or the Halloween theme here of creepiness. There was a period of time where kids programming was fucking creepy during the
yes, absolutely,
early 70s to the late 70s.
Towards the end, you had the Great Space Coaster, which had a couple of creepy, but not on the level of Miss Lane.
It never, and even at that, the Great Space Roller Coaster came out at like 7 a.m. So it wasn't like creepy, like midday cartoon or mid-afternoon show. And you had, Gary Gnu with
Here's the news with Gary Gnu.
Here's the news with Gary Gnu. That's right. So like I used to watch that more than any other time when I would end up in the fucking hospital. So I'd end up in the hospital with fucking, pneumonia, and I would watch through a fucking oxygen tent Gary Gnu. And that was like the best part of my day. Like, because after that,
understand.
You had a couple of cartoons, and then
Great Space Coaster,
right? So you would have Captain Kangaroo. Come on, you'd have which, by the way, those sideburns scream pedophile. I'm sorry, I loved Captain Kangaroo.
Hey, what's wrong with sideburns?
Yeah, but those were fucking weird. No one ever had sideburns like that except for Captain Kangaroo. Fucking no one. The
Beatles' Magical Mystery Tour apparently left him behind.
Yes. Yeah, he fell off the fucking bus. But yeah, like as a kid, I would watch The Great Space Coaster. I'd watch Captain Kangaroo. Trying to remember what else was out. You get in the morning, if you were lucky, at least in the Detroit area, you would get an hour or maybe even 2 of animation cartoons. Mm-hmm. So you, in the morning, if you were lucky, you would grab, maybe you got some Looney Tunes, but usually you were going to get something like Flintstones or
I remember getting
Hanna-Barbera was what I remember.
Channel 56, which I think came in from Canada.
Mm-hmm.
The old UHF stations,
right,
no longer exist.
But they were the ones that really like loved Hanna-Barbera cartoons, and not like the good ones. They were the ones that were doing the off, kind of like Snagglepuss, Grape Ape, Snagglepuss,
yep,
Sharky,
yep.
Like they were all kind of the B team of Hanna-Barbera. And really, I mean, almost all of Hanna-Barbera, in my opinion, was B team compared to Warner Brothers with Bugs Bunny. Like I didn't have any interest. I would watch. Well, now that I think about it, in the morning, sometimes you would get a Woody Woodpecker or a Chilly Willy, but it depended on what time of year it was, because they would flip that from the like 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock hour to the 4 o'clock or the 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock hour, I think it was. So those would get flipped back and forth. And I think that they actually would flip those back and forth with Bugs Bunny and with the Flintstones. But usually, I mean, like going back, really going back, you had like, what was the dog? The Hanna-Barbera dog, Kung Fu.
Oh, Hong Kong Phooey?
Hong Kong Phooey. That's it. So you would have Hong Kong Phooey. Like you would get those cartoons in the morning. You'd get your Hong Kong Phooeys. You'd get your Hanna-Barberas. You'd get the
occasional Pink Panther.
Yeah, occasionally. That was usually done though, like they would break that into like a 10 or 15 minute thing. And then they would do another 10 or 15 minute other type of cartoons. So like you might get a Pink Panther, but you were also going to get a Snagglepuss. You would also get a Grape Ape. You might get a 15-minute Woody Woodpecker.
You can't forget the great Schoolhouse Rock.
Actually, it's funny because a lot of people did not appreciate that as I was growing up, because that's when it was really, really kind of big.
Yeah.
It was definitely more prominent when I was growing up and watching the cartoons versus the 5 years later when you were. But Schoolhouse Rock, man, especially I'm Just a Bill.
I'm just a Bill
sitting here on Capitol Hill. But I'm gonna be a law one day. Oh, I hope and pray that I will. But today I am still just a Bill. I used to love that shit. Even when they would do like about English and how, conjunctions worked and, conjunction, junction, what's your function? Yeah, I mean, like it was actually a really cool way of learning as a kid, like even if you didn't fully understand what it was, at least you were enjoying it. And then, you'd come home after, kindergarten, or you come home after first, second grade, and then you inevitably see the knowledge is power thing that went across. I didn't always like those, even though I think knowledge is power is what brought like the I'm just a Bill and conjunction, function. I generally did not like whenever you saw the knowledge is power, you're like, oh fuck, here we go. Get to fucking
God damn it, I'm not
get to Bugs Bunny. I need to see a cross dresser stat. I need to see a bunny in a fucking dress now. That's what I need. I just had a rough day. I had to drink white milk while everyone else was drinking chocolate milk because mom told me I'm allergic and she was fucking lying. It's so fucking bad. I'm still pissed at her. I'm still pissed at her for it because I think she was lying. I really want to track down those medical records to see if the allergy test came back positive for chocolate, because I don't think it fucking did. I think that was just her. I think she was just fucking with me. But
well, I mean, that's what you do to kids.
Yeah.
You got to fool them somehow.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm going to have to take this, Kit Kat. You're allergic to it.
I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to eat this in front of you and get chocolate all over my face while you just sit there with a white milk.
She'd sit there without that wig on, with her hair all crazy.
Which was the scariest.
This is why we are the way we are, folks.
Oh, shit. We have so many Elsie stories we could tell, but we've come up on our hour. And so I would say this, keeping with the Halloween, and yes, everyone, we will get back to politics and we will get back to in-depth discussion about Trump or, Kamala or the election. We're going to do all of that. But for just this little bit of time, please try to enjoy something before the election, because I don't know about you.
Key to life, enjoying something.
I don't know about you.
I've been detecting a lot of anxiety lately.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Is
because of the election.
I don't know about you, Kiefer, but I have found that it does feel like the quiet before the storm. It feels like the calm before the storm, and it feels like everyone is very tense and very uptight and very, my team has to win and your team has to lose. And I don't want that to be what Elsie's Little Pickles is about. And I know you don't. I know what we want it to be about is educating people and pushing boundaries. And literally the message, the core of our message is just two brothers trying to figure out what the fuck is going on in the world today. That's all we're doing. It doesn't mean that we have the answers, and it doesn't mean that we won't stumble across them.
One thing about the world right now, and that's my world right now, which is it's very smelly because my dog keeps farting at me.
And with that, that's another Elsie's Little Pickles.
Ooh.